by reading something I found in an Osho book. And for those of you who may not know who Osho was an enlightened master. He was a spiritual teacher from India who spent some time here in the U.S. and he died in the early 90s, but he was quite an amazing teacher. He was actually Madam's teacher, and I believe it was Osho that Madame got his name through Osho, correct? So here's a question that will lead to what I want to talk about today in the discourse. And so the person asked, "Beloved Osho, in every situation, if I say to you within me, 'Thank you, Osho,' something happens. This creates some distance from my mind, and I become more and more weightless. I begin to float, to fly. I don't know where I go, but please let me say again and again and now, 'Thank you, Osho.'" And Osho answers and says, "It happens sometimes that you suddenly stumble upon a beautiful phenomenon. That's what has happened when inside you say, 'Thank you, Osho.' It is not only words, it is a gratefulness felt by every fiber of your being. It is gratitude. That's why you suddenly feel weightless. All the burdens of the mind, worries, tensions disappear. You feel as if you can float into it. You feel as if you can float into the sky like a cloud. You have stumbled on a technique without knowing that it is a technique. It is a Tibetan method. It has been used for at least 2,000 years. In a Tibetan monastery, you will be surprised if you visit every lama, and that's another word for priest or monk. Every lama, whenever he comes across the master during the day, working in the field, working in the garden, he simply bows down, puts his head on the master's feet, and says, "Thank you, master." That is insight that is not really in words. It is a feeling, a thankfulness. Sometimes it happens that in a day the disciple may come across the master a dozen times. A dozen times he will do the same, and slowly he becomes aware that those moments are the most precious. He starts seeking the master. Then the master says to the disciples, "Now there is no need to actually touch my feet. Wherever you are, just bow down in my direction with the same feeling of gratefulness, and you will have the same experience." And this is a new discovery. At first they were thinking that something is happening because of the master. Now they know something is happening because of themselves. The whole focus has changed. The moment they discover that it is their own gratefulness, the master says, "Now don't bother about the direction. All directions are the same. Bow down in any direction. Just remember the feeling." And they're surprised. It is not even the direction of the master. All directions are the same. And finally the master says, "There's no need bowing down every time unnecessarily. It is only a question of feeling. Standing, sitting, sleeping, in any posture of the body, if you can feel the gratefulness, you will feel that weightlessness, the silence, and the immense sweetness all over your being." I want to read that again. If you can feel the greatness, if you can feel the gratefulness, you will feel the weightlessness, the silence, and the immense sweetness all over your being. You have found some method on your own. Rejoice and enjoy it. Enjoy it more and more, so slowly, there is no need to say it at specific moments. It becomes just your very life, sitting, walking, doing 1,001 things, but the gratefulness remains inside. It is not gratefulness towards someone in particular. The master is just an excuse. But for the beginners, it is good, because without an excuse, they will feel a little awkward. Standing in an empty room and saying thank you will look a little awkward. So it is just for the beginners that the master becomes an excuse. Although when you are touching the feet of the master and saying thank you, master, you are saying it in an empty room. The master is an emptiness. Use it more and more, so slowly it becomes a natural phenomenon, like breathing, and it will bring tremendous experiences to you. So I'm going to talk about gratitude today. And this is something that I have been exploring and experimenting with and playing with to some extent on my own in the last little while. And I've been quite amazed by the results of it. be grateful, to be in an attitude of gratefulness implies and includes so much. If I am given a gift, if someone gives me a shirt and it's a color that I hate and it's the wrong size, I may say thank you and on some level appreciate, at least the gesture. But there may not be a whole lot of genuine felt gratitude for that. But if somebody gives me just the perfect shirt in the perfect color and it fits in such a way that it looks like I don't have any belly and it's just perfect, I'm going to be really grateful for that shirt. And I will not only say it at that point, but I will feel it. And I will feel it, pretty much throughout my body. And that's the experience that I'm talking about, is that not saying the word grateful, not doing something to appear grateful, but that feeling of gratefulness, because that's where the key is. And when you can tap in and access your gratitude for whatever the situation is that's occurring, you're saying a few things to the universe. First of all, you're saying, before anything else, I accept this moment. I accept what is. Because you can't be grateful for something if you haven't accepted it. So the first step is just acceptance. And as I have certainly learned in the last weeks and months, acceptance is the magic key to so many things. If you're not in acceptance over an area of your life, you're in resistance. You're resisting what is occurring. You're resisting the flow of life. You're fighting with life. And that's going to be uncomfortable, regardless of the circumstances. That does not feel good. Nor does it bring to you more experiences of what you want and what you desire in your life. But if you can find that attitude of gratefulness, you are first saying that you accept. And then you're also saying, yes, life, yes, universe, yes, God. I know that life supports life. I know that I am safe. I am well. All is well. There is no need to fear. Because we're not grateful for something that we're afraid of. We're not grateful for a situation that we don't like. We're not grateful for something that we're judging as negative. We're grateful for the things that we accept and want and are happy, or that we are having. And there are circumstances that, from the mind's perspective, it's difficult to reach that feeling on. I know that, for example, in Vadam's experience, I'm sure there was a point, Vadam went through a couple of periods of paralysis and he's had some illness. And I am sure at some point he had to reach a point of acceptance and even gratefulness for that experience in order to move on and beyond it. Because if you are in resistance to something and you're not accepting it, you never get past it. Because the only way to get past something is to go through it. And if you're constantly saying no and you won't look at it and you won't accept it and you're not dealing with it, you're stuck, and that's going to stay with you on some level. And the body is cellular memory, and the mind is a belief system and how you operate in the world. But the very thing you're saying no to, the act of saying no is just making sure basically that it's going to hang on right there with you. And I know in my own experience with being HIV positive, there was a period of time where I was very sick. There was a year where I was very sick every day. In those 365 plus a few days, I wasn't always very grateful in the moment. But there was a time after the experience where I did find the gratefulness in it, because I saw how much I gained from the experience of being HIV positive. I wouldn't be where I am now if it weren't for the experiences that came through that set of circumstances. And I free people out when I have, made sort of the offhand comment, well, thank goodness for being positive because blah, 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 blah. And, it's as if I were saying, well, thank goodness I've got cancer. But it's that attitude, because it's not been a negative